Well, Casey, the other big story of the week in tech is this madness and chaos going on with visas.
Yeah, now I use a MasterCard, so I haven't been following as closely. But is this important?
Different visa.
Oh.
This was a proclamation that President Trump released on Friday of last week called the Restriction on Entry of Certain Non-Immigrant Workers, which made a bunch of big changes to the H1B visa program. This is the program that allows immigrants from high-skill occupations to come and work in the country. President Trump announced that going forward, there would be a new $100,000 fee for employees who are hired under the H-1B visa program. I started hearing about this right away from people who were saying, oh my God, what does this mean? The tech companies started sending memos and emails to their employees who are on H-1Bs saying, hey, we're still trying to figure out what's going on here, but if you're outside the country, you need to come back immediately. And if you're inside the U.S., don't leave because we're not sure if you're going to be allowed back or not. So there was just a lot of confusion about this new program, the new fees, who it would apply to, who it wouldn't apply to. It just seemed to be a big mess.
Yeah, it was a weekend full of absolute chaos. My own friends who are immigrants and I have been exchanging a lot of messages as we try to figure out what is going on here. And so we thought, well, we should try to tell that story on Hard Fork this week and tell you what's going on as best as we can.
Yeah, so there's still a lot we don't know. As of the time of this recording, the White House has tried to clear up some of the confusion about these changes. They've said this new fee will apply only to new applicants for H-1B visas. It will be a one-time fee, not an annual fee, and anyone currently on an H-1B visa can come and go as they always have. But Casey, I think it's important to talk about this week because the technology industry in America is and always has been dependent on immigrants. Immigrants run many of our largest technology companies. In fact, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, many others have had H-1B visas at various points in their careers. AI in particular is a part of the tech industry that relies on a lot of foreign-born talent. And the tech industry was the target of these policy changes. And so I think we should examine them, try to figure out what's happening, and bring in someone who can really help us unpack what's going on.
Yes. So to help us navigate all these changes, we have invited on an immigration policy expert to walk us through what's happening. His name is Jeremy Neufeld. He's the director of immigration policy at the Institute for Progress, which is a nonpartisan think tank for accelerating scientific, technological, and industrial progress. He has written a lot about how these changes will impact not just startups and big tech firms, but also non-immigrant American workers and the wider U.S. economy. He's got a lot to say. Let's bring him in.
Yes, as the Trump administration is not saying to applicants for H-1B visas, let's bring him in.
Jeremy Neufeld, welcome to Hard Fork.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
So you focus closely on immigration. Tell me about your weekend. Was this one of those where your phone is ringing off the hook starting on Friday?
Yeah, so on Friday, I first heard that there was going to be this proclamation and signing in the White House about something related to immigration policy. This was not on anyone I know's radar before that happened. And then from the time that they made these announcements up until the time we're talking now, I've just been in nonstop conversations about it, trying to figure out what's going on, how it's going to affect the United States, and what it all means.
I want to take a step back and understand the history of this visa in particular. We have a lot of different kinds of visas in this country. I have some friends who work in tech who are on what they call O1 visas for immigrants of extraordinary abilities. What is the H1B system? What was it originally designed to do?
Yeah, so the H1B visa is our flagship high-skilled immigration visa. It's intended for people in specialty occupations. And there's 85,000 of these H1Bs that are available each year for the private sector. And then universities and national laboratories get access to as many H1Bs as they want without being subject to that cap. But I think one way to think about the H1B system is that it's really a couple of different talent pipelines under the same umbrella of the H1B. So on the one hand, it is an incredibly valuable source for top talent for international scientists, for top founders of tech companies like Elon Musk. And then at the same time, it's the same visa that's being used for lower level, lower skilled talent, like IT consultancy services work. And so I think one of the things that happens with a lot of the debate that happens around this visa is the defenders of the program are pointing to very true things. They're pointing to the amazing contributions that H1B holders have made for the United States, for our scientific and technological leadership. And the critics are also pointing to real cases of certain companies like Infosys and Cognizant taking a huge number of these visas and bringing in relatively low-skilled workers who might be undercutting Americans. And both of these sides have a point, because the H-1B program is not one thing. It's a lot of different kinds of things.
Yeah, I think it's worth drilling into that a little bit more, because what I've been hearing from people who are sort of defenders of the H-1B program is, all these famous tech people came here on H-1B visas at some point. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, was on an H-1B visa. Satya Nadella from Microsoft, Eric Yuan, the founder and CEO of Zoom. I mean, you can go on and on and on. We have so much top tech leadership in this country that was reliant at some point in their careers on this visa program. Then you also have these sort of outsourcing and IT firms that sometimes people in tech will pejoratively refer to as body shops. And what are they doing, and how much of the overall H-1B program do they represent?
The basic reason all of these different pipelines exist is because employers want far more H-1Bs than there are H-1Bs available each year. So last year, about 400,000 workers got entered into the lottery. There's only 85,000 slots. And so what that means is that there's an incentive for certain kinds of business models who can play into that basic lottery. These body shops, they have a business model of spamming the H-1B lottery with lots of petitions because they don't really care about which individuals are going to win the lottery. All that they care about is getting some number of visas so that they can then contract out those workers to third-party companies. And so they've ended up increasing in scale. Right now, H-1B dependent companies, that's companies where a significant share of their workforce are on H-1Bs, they represent about a third of all of the visas that get given out. Outsourcing companies are a subset of those companies. These are companies that specialize almost entirely in contracting services. They are about 15% of all of the capped H-1Bs.
Where do we think this $100,000 number came from? I saw some speculation on X that it had been someone, I guess, had tweeted this out, a while ago and said, "Oh, they should fix this program by making everyone pay $100,000 to get an H-1B visa." I don't know whether that was actually in the administration's, feed when they decided on that number. But do you have any better sense of where that came from, and why would charging companies or workers $100,000 to get an H-1B visa results in fewer of the kinds of immigrants that the Trump administration doesn't want and would allow others to come in?
Oh, I think I can answer that one. Wait, can I guess? I want to see if I got it right, to see if I've been following the discussion.
Yes.
Is it because the outsourcing companies would never pay $100,000 for one of these workers because their wages just aren't that high and wouldn't be worth it to them? Did I get it?
That's the basic theory.
Yes!
Whether that ends up being true remains to be seen. The first thing I just want to mention is that the proclamation does three different things at once. The first is the fee. The second is a prioritization within the lottery for people who are more experienced and are older. And then the third is it has the Department of Labor try to beef up requirements about what people are required to be paid. And the intention is supposed to be to make it harder for the outsourcers to gobble up so many of these scarce slots. That's what the administration says that they're trying to do. But what these policies would end up doing, in effect, is cutting out a lot of the high-value talent and potentially leave the outsourcers untouched. And the reason for this is, first of all, the outsourcers have access to another kind of visa called an L visa for intra-company transfers. And the fee has a major loophole, which is that people who are switching from one visa type to another, to an H-1B, they don't have to pay the fee as long as they're already in the United States. And so what I think we'll see is that the outsourcers, they can adapt to this. They can bring people here on Ls, and then they can transfer them over to H1Bs without paying the fee, in a way that a lot of other companies can't adapt because they're not multinationals. And then the second way that the outsourcers are helped is, I think, entirely unintentional. This is that the Department of Homeland Security was instructed to prioritize higher wage levels in running the lottery. And what they've settled on is something called a wage level classification constructed by the Department of Labor. But the important thing to recognize is that wage levels are not the same as actual wages. Wage levels are dividing the salaries within an occupation. And so the most experienced, most qualified acupuncturist in the world might be paid $60,000. And so they'd be classified as wage level 4, the highest wage level, because they're really highly paid compared to other acupuncturists. A recently minted PhD coming out of a top university, they're at the start of their career. They're about to go get a job at OpenAI paying $300,000. But because they're right at the beginning of their career, they're going to be classified as wage level 1 or wage level 2 because it's entry level. And so the way this wage level system works is it would favor the acupuncturist to the AI scientist because it looks only within the occupation. And the way that helps the outsourcers is the outsourcers bring a lot of older mid-career staff. So even though they're paying less than other employers, they pay about $90,000 on average to their employees when the median H1B is much higher. They pay less in absolute terms, but they bring in mid-career people so they get classified at higher wage levels. And so the end result of all of this is that the outsourcers will come out of this actually ahead. They'll get about 8% more visas under the proposed policies, even though the administration says they're trying to clamp down on the outsourcers.
Got it. You mentioned that universities, research institutes, hospitals, they have not been subject to this lottery system that we have. Are they going to have to pay the $100,000 fee? And how do we think it will affect jobs in those categories?
Yes, this $100,000 fee is essentially a major tax on universities and national laboratories from recruiting foreign trained talent. There's no problem in principle with using some mechanism to shift scarce visas to the people who are going to contribute the most. But for universities and other organizations that aren't playing in the same zero-sum game that the lottery creates, this is just a pure cost. And while big tech might be able to afford a $100,000 fee, universities trying to bring in the best associate professor that they can to lead up some new research area, they're not going to be able to do it. And so I'm already seeing top PhDs no longer be that interested in coming to the United States because they know they're not going to be able to build their research career here. I was just talking with someone who was accepted into an MIT PhD program in neuroscience, and now she doesn't want to come anymore because of the legal uncertainty that this causes.
Wow.
What about the startups that don't have millions of dollars of runway to pay these fees?
Yeah, that's such a good point. They don't have the liquid cash to pay $100,000. This will definitely hurt their ability to expand. And that is hugely important for the future of the tech ecosystem. Right now, 60% of the top AI startups in the United States are founded by immigrants. That would not be possible without the H1B program. We're threatening to undermine that huge success story.
Wait, that is an insane statistic.
Yeah.
I did not know that. 60% of all the AI startups in America are started by immigrants?
60% of the top AI startups.
That's incredible.
Immigrants get the job done. Hamilton said that.
Jeremy, what are you hearing from people in the tech industry about how they are planning to deal with this going forward?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of different answers. I think some people are just hoping that the legal dispute can happen as quickly as possible because there's a lot of questions about whether this fee is legal. I think most of the people I've talked to think that it probably isn't. And so it's a matter of time before it gets struck down. And so people want to ride this out until that happens. Others are coming up with strategies to deal with this new fee and try to shift the recruitment toward people who are already here, who they might not have to pay it for. Others are looking at this like it will just fundamentally change whether or not they will be able to participate in this program at all.
I can imagine some supporters of this $100,000 fee believe that maybe in some ways this could help to increase the wages of American workers. Is there any evidence that that's true?
Yeah, for the private sector. So putting aside the fact that we're going to cut out the universities and make it much harder for people to do basic research, in the private sector, the thinking is only the companies who really value particular people at least $100,000 and are willing to pay that on top of their salary are going to be willing to go forward with using the H1B system. But the problem with this is, like we mentioned, that the end result of all of this is likely to be that the outsourcers are going to be able to get around it and continue to bring in the kinds of people who have led to the problems of undercutting Americans, and top talent who might actually be creating jobs for Americans. They're going to be hit particularly hard. Startups who are going to be creating jobs are going to be hit particularly hard. And the net effect of all of this is that this incredibly huge national asset, which benefits the American worker, is going to take a massive blow. And the people who are undercutting jobs can adapt.
Tell us about the exceptions to this policy. I've heard people talking about the gold card, the platinum card, and then maybe some like discretion that the Trump administration can grant to companies and just say like, oh, you don't have to pay the $100,000 per employee. So tell us about that.
One thing the proclamation does is creates discretionary authority to grant exemptions for the fee at the individual level, at the company level, at the industry level, entirely at the discretion of the administration. One way to think about this is it's analogous to moves that the administration has made on trade policy or other areas where they want to be able to negotiate and they want to bring people to the table to make concessions. The promise of an H1B exemption as a carrot and the stick of $100,000 fee might be a way to get companies to try to apply for these exemptions, make promises, and how all of that plays out, we'll have to see.
Well, we'll have to see, but I mean, it seems like if the Trump administration wanted it to be, this could just be another avenue for influence peddling. Oh, you did something we don't really like. Well, yeah, we're not going to grant you any exemptions to this onerous new policy we've created. But hey, if you do what we say, maybe suddenly you don't have to pay that $100,000 fee. So I think we do have to watch that, actually.
What is the long-term picture here? We have an immigration system that, for whatever problems people have with it, has resulted in a dynamic and very profitable tech industry in America. Many of our largest companies are run by immigrants. What is the long-term threat to American innovation if we start mucking around with this immigration system that has served our tech industry so well?
We run the risk of threatening the talent pipeline that has long been our major advantage in technological and scientific competition. One thing I think about is the timing on all of this is somewhat ironic because next Wednesday, China is rolling out a new visa program called the K visa for high-skilled STEM talent, particularly aimed at East Asian talent. Historically, China's not been a big destination for global talent. People haven't wanted to move there. But the Central Committee has said that they want to be competitive with the United States on global talent by 2035. And they're deliberately trying to play the best hand that they can. The United States, by contrast, seems to be walking away from the field, maybe ceding the biggest advantage we have in technological competition. Even if these rules get struck down by the courts, it will likely sow a cloud of uncertainty that will deter people into the future. I think there's huge problems with the H1B program. We've talked about some of them. We've talked about how much the outsourcers are bringing in relatively lower skilled people. And I think the H1B program could be a much better and much more highly skilled immigration program. These particular proposals, though, don't really do that. And they do significantly threaten our ability to continue to benefit from the smartest minds in the world.
Well, Kevin, H1B or H1 not to be? That is the question.
Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us. This was really helpful.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.